Today, a single star can change a chef's life. Restaurants wait years for the opportunity to earn one. Reservations disappear months in advance. Careers are built, and sometimes broken, by a guide that has become the gold standard of fine dining. But none of it began with food. It began with rubber. At the turn of the 20th century, France had fewer than 3,000 automobiles. Road trips were rare. Most people had never travelled far from home by car. And for one small company making tyres, that was a problem. Because if nobody drove, nobody wore out their tyres. So two brothers came up with an idea. If they couldn't convince people to buy more tyres, they would convince them to travel. What they created wasn't supposed to change the culinary world. It wasn't supposed to launch celebrity chefs. It wasn't supposed to become the most prestigious award in fine dining. It was simply a free booklet filled with maps, hotels, mechanics, fuel stations, and places to eat. It was called the Michelin Guide. What happened next would transform not only the restaurant industry, but our entire understanding of luxury. In 1900, André and Edouard Michelin printed 35,000 copies of the very first Michelin Guide and gave everyone away for free. Their reasoning was surprisingly simple. More driving meant more worn-out tyres. More worn-out tyres meant more sales. The guide wasn't an act of generosity, it was one of the most successful marketing strategies ever created. The restaurants inside weren't carefully curated destinations. They were practical recommendations for motorists who needed somewhere to eat while travelling. The guide wasn't selling food, it was selling movement. For nearly 20 years, that strategy worked. As automobiles became more common, more people explored France by road, and the Michelin Guide quietly became an indispensable companion for travellers. Then, one day, André Michelin visited a repair garage and noticed something unexpected. One of his free guides had been shoved beneath a workbench to prop it up. He later remarked that people only truly respect what they pay for. So, in 1920, Michelin stopped giving the guide away. From that moment on, it became a paid publication. It was a small decision, but it changed everything. Charging for the guide transformed it from advertising into authority. Readers no longer saw it as a promotional booklet. They saw it as a trusted recommendation. As the guide's reputation grew, Michelin realized travelers wanted more than directions. They wanted guidance. Which restaurants were exceptional? Which were worth going out of your way to visit? In 1926, Michelin introduced a single star to recognize outstanding restaurants. 5 years later, the system expanded into the 3-star scale that still exists today. 1 star, worth a stop. 2 stars, worth a detour. 3 stars, worth a special journey. Those definitions weren't poetic, they were practical. Remember, this was still a travel guide. The stars answered a simple question. How far should someone be willing to drive for this meal? The farther the journey, the greater the honour. And without realising it, a tyre company had invented the world's most influential restaurant rating. The stars became more than recommendations. They became aspirations. Chefs built entire careers pursuing them. Restaurants redesigned menus. Cities celebrated them. Travellers crossed oceans for them. The Michelin brothers never set out to define luxury. They set out to sell tyres. But in solving one business problem, they accidentally created one of the most powerful symbols of culinary excellence the world has ever known. Perhaps that's the strangest part of the story. Luxury isn't always invented by artisans. Sometimes it's invented by marketers. Because every luxury has a first chapter, and sometimes it begins in the last place you'd ever expect, a tyre factory.